Hi, it's Jenny here from Our Humble Home. Thanks for joining me today, because today I am doing stencils, and this week I bought some Mylar, I think it's pronounced 10mm stencil sheeting to make some stencils. These are like what the professional people use and what the stencils you buy are made out of, but it soon became clear that the settings in my Cricut Explore 3 wasn't going to cut it, literally. And I also found one video on YouTube that said it would cut the 10mm. It actually didn't. The settings weren't right. So in this video, I'm going to be setting out to find the perfect settings for me to be able to cut and make some beautiful stencils that, you know, you would pretty much buy. That could cost you about $30, you know, not even for this size. So, and you can make your own designs. I bought these also from Temu. They're like little molds that I'll be using, and I have a lot in there. And yeah, I just thought I'd buy some resin from Kmart maybe, so I'll be doing that in some upcoming videos. But this is the stencil plastic. I don't know whether you call it plastic, but you can get 3 sizes, and I think the size most people use is the 7mm or MIL. It doesn't mean millimeter, it measures something else, so it's not 7mm thick. It's just maybe the quality of it, I'm just not sure. But because my mat is not very sticky, and I really do need a new one, I thought I would just tape down the edges just so that it cuts out, it's not gonna move. I went back into Canva and I made this. Well, I didn't make the design. I went into Elements and found this design. I thought it was really pretty. It would make a really pretty stencil. So I just put that in and exported it as a transparent file, then put it into Cricut. And the Mylar sheets are 30 centimeters, or just over 30 by 30 centimeters. So I made sure that, I think I made this 28 centimeters so that there would just be a little bit of a border around the edge that I could tape the stencil down when I painted. And I positioned it when I got to this point so that it was even and that it was centered on the mat. And now the next thing is actually trying to experiment now with the settings. What am I going to do? And I actually had put this in previously, so I put the pressure on 350, the multi-cut on 3, and I made a deep point blade, I thought, because I need something that would cut through properly, and previously the settings I had used hadn't. Additionally, also more pressure when you get to this point too. So I'm thinking this should be it. It should be okay. So I set about to cut this design out. That took probably about 16 minutes, I would say, to do. When I recorded it, I just looked at the length of time. So it was about 16 minutes. So it doesn't cut, expel, then you press a button, cut 3 times. It will cut automatically, so it'll go over each piece 3 times, one after the other, if that makes sense. So it's not ejecting the actual vinyl. And I found that when I started pulling it out, I wasn't too upset with it. I thought it was okay. As I went on though, there were parts that just wouldn't come out at all. It hadn't seemed to cut through properly, and I had to get my little knife out and cut that. In saying that, there was a line there like it had been scored, so I knew where to cut. It was just a bit finicky, and I thought, you know, for in the future, and if I were going to make these to sell, it just wasn't practical really to have to do this. Also, because I did cut it, you'll notice in some of these spots you can just see a little bit of plastic bits that are sort of sticking out, and that's where I cut. and I thought that might interfere with the actual stenciling and the stenciling result. But as you can see, it wasn't too bad. And I thought, well, I'm going to try to paint and do a stencil with this. This was just the inside of a drawer, one of my drawers I had. And I thought I'll stencil and see how this turns out. So I was actually pleased with the result of this. I put 2 coats of paint on. I let the first dry a bit and did that, and I peeled it off, and I was really pleased with it. So that was a relative success, but I thought that I could just improve on it a bit. So what I did was I actually bought a new mat. So this is a strong grip mat, and I think it's meant to be used for like wood, leather, stronger sort of fabrics and products that you might want to cut, that needs to be really held down, that would have a hard time staying stuck. The idea of me using this was that when I cut the actual stencil, the pieces wouldn't come up as I cut, and also that when I peeled off, it would weed itself pretty much, a bit like my carrier sheet stencils I did last week that I absolutely love, and I will be doing those because they're so easy and free. Really, you just use the back of the carrier, the back of the HTV sheet that you peel off. So I'll put that video up if you haven't seen that. What I'm going to do now though, and I'll show you how I actually add in a completely new material if you want to add in your own materials. So I go into material settings, and that's the one I had done previously. So I go down to the bottom, and it will be add your own material there, and you just write the name of the material that you are going to add, and then you will press save, and it will take you up then to that material. It puts it in alphabetical order here. It will take you up to that material, and then you can put in your very own settings. So I'm doing the same as the last one, the flower one, except I'm making it a 4 cut pass, not a 3. And I thought that should probably fix the problem. Keeping it at 350 cut pressure and a deep point blade, and also keeping it at more pressure when I cut as well. So that's where it is in there, and you can see that it's changed, that I've made it a 4 times cut pass. And you go and press save. My voice is all croaky. And yeah, so I'm just going to find that material again. So that will be the settings I use for this stencil. So it will be under my materials. Anything that you put in is under a separate category, my materials, and I will make the pressure more. And I just wanted to see how this weeded. This was actually a very easy and simple basic design, and I was really pleased with the way this turned out. As you can see, a lot of the pieces are stuck to the mat, which is what I wanted. There are a few that are just stuck a little bit that came out really easy though. I didn't have to get the knife out for this, and they were the settings I used for this one. So at this point I thought, okay, I found the actual settings I'll be using, but I thought what I might do though is try a more intricate design, because that was a pretty basic design. So I'm going to try a more intricate design to see if it will cut as well. So yeah, I'm using this floral design. I did the same thing. I put it in Cricut, and I use the same settings, the 4 time cut pass, and I cut that out. I sort of thought I would have no issue with it because the last one worked really well, but as you can see, there's a lot more to this. It's more intricate, and peeling it off, and because the mat's so sticky, you have to be careful too. So if it isn't cut properly, it's going to actually tear the plastic a little bit if you pull too hard. And what I did find was it didn't cut it properly. Whether it was because there were so many intricate little pieces, I'm just not sure, but there were parts of it that just didn't cut properly. And then I got to the point where I just peeled it right off, and there was a bit at the top that actually ripped. And as I went through and had a look, I could see that there were some little bits that just didn't cut through. Too bad, but it wasn't good enough. You can see this bit I'm going to circle here that ripped, and that little, you know, there were little bits that just didn't cut through, and some came out but others just didn't. So I thought, well, this is no good. I want something that will just peel off and is pretty much, you know, perfect. Really, I don't want to be going through and you know, having to wrestle with the stencil design. So what I did was I tried it again. So I thought, I'm going to try this design again, but just adjust the settings too. Another thing I did adjust with this pattern, you can see the leaves there. I went into paint and I actually colored in or blacked out the little pieces, the little vines, sort of veins that the image has, because this is going to cut out, but it's going to fall out, so it's not actually going to be part of the design in the end, because it's not attached to anything. So it's just going to fall out, and it takes up so much time and effort for the machine to cut this too, and there's no point because it's not going to be seen in the final stencil. So I went in and I got rid of those, and then I put the design, saved the design and put it back into Cricut, and just basically did the same thing with the but I did change the setting to a 5 times cut, so it's a 5 multi-cut, not a 4, and I just cross my fingers and I hope for the best. This mat is ultra sticky, and yeah, you just got to take your time, I found, just to peel it off carefully and have a look to see where it is cut, and make sure that you are peeling it carefully around those cuts, especially when they're so fine. But this actually worked. This actually worked, and it peeled off well, and you'll see in a minute where I peel it off and it just comes straight off, which is what it's sort of meant to do, sort of thing, and just ease off any little bits that are stuck. But that worked really well. There are a few tiny little bits that didn't pop out, and there was one little bit I just did have to cut a little with the knife, but when I flicked it over, it sort of snapped off anyway, and that was good, and I was really, really pleased with that. So I think I found the settings now for my 10mm Mylar stencils. Even the ones that are pretty basic, I'll just keep it at the 5 times multi-cut. I tried it again with those settings with the 5 times multi-cut, and that just peeled straight off, and it worked really well. That's like a little retro sort of swirly design there. I hope you guys enjoyed this video today. It's sort of part of my stencil series. I'm sort of addicted a little bit to stencils, and I do have one more stencil type of video coming up, but next week it will be a furniture makeover where I'll be using one of my stencils. These are they're the settings I came up with for my Mylar 10mm Cricut Explore 3. Have a great week, and I'll see you all in next week's video. Bye for now.